We have more of our least favorite fantasy players for 2025 to reveal. We give you our never will I ever draft list for running backs and tight ends on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today, we are going to go through two running backs each and a tight end each that we will not be drafting this year anywhere near their cost. They would have to drop significantly for us to even consider it. These are our least favorite fantasy players for 2025. We already went through our wide receivers and quarterbacks on yesterday's show, so you can go listen to that if you missed it. But Vinny, let's start with your least favorite running back to draft this year, a guy that you never will ever draft anywhere near his cost. Who is it?
Yeah, this pains me to say because I have liked him before, but the situation has not worked out. I mean, just things, dysfunction with the Jets, everything, and now they're fickle about whether he's the true starting running back on this team. He's even wondering if they still want him in a feature role. Look, this could be a little bit of a smokescreen here. Then Breece Hall comes out of the fog and just explodes and gives us a fantasy season like he hasn't essentially since he got on the field his rookie season. But I'm not buying it. There's just too much around him that you can go like Breece Hall, James Cook. That decision is easy to me. A lot of leagues, Hall is going over ahead of Cook. I'd rather take Cook for sure than we talked about. Like even some guys that are the old reliables that we have some concerns over, like the Chuba Hubbard and James Conner type of backs as well, right? We feel more comfortable because at least they have a ticket to a reliable role that we can see, right? But with Breece Hall, I'm not sure how this new team views him in terms of new offense here with Tanner Engstrand. They don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. Justin Fields is in there. We talked about Fields' running ability. It's actually a detriment to Hall because it's the twofold thing where Fields can cut into his rushing yards and touchdowns and also not throw checkdowns to him, hurting one of his major skill sets as a receiver. They also like some of the guys behind him on the depth chart, including Braylon Allen. So there's no guarantee that Breece Hall is going to see the feature work as a runner and receiver to justify the RB16 cost. So look, it's painful. He should have been a lot more productive in the NFL. He had a ton of talent. But again, the bad breaks, bad offensive dysfunction, a lot of changes, a lot of offensive line shuffling, not enough reliable quarterback play. So all these factors have come into play. But Breece Hall definitely out for me at RB16 in 2025.
Yeah, it's so hard for him because if he could just be on a good offense with a good offensive line and get a ton of volume, like he could be right there with some of these other elite players, but that's just not his case. He's stuck on a really bad team. And as much as we want Fields and Garrett Wilson to be better this year, it's probably not, right? I think they're probably going to struggle overall to score too many points. And it does fully seem like this team is headed in that committee approach with Breece Hall clearly the starter, and he'll outsnap the rest of the backfield by a solid chunk, but still Braylon Allen's going to be involved in this backfield. And you already brought up all the things with Fields stealing his, maybe not, giving him as many targets or stealing his goal line work whenever they do finally get around the goal line. But Breece Hall has been highly inconsistent throughout his career. He's stuck on a terrible team, and all of those reasons with him also splitting work, it's just too hard to trust him right there. There's just guys going behind him or around him that are much safer with we want to say Breece Hall has all this crazy upside, but I don't actually know he does in his current situation. So I am with you. Now, my guy, it's hard because I don't necessarily think his cost is that crazy. It's not. It's Josh Jacobs. He's sitting there at running back 8. I don't hate his cost, but there's for some reason I will never ever draft him anywhere around this area. because I like too many of the guys that are going right behind him. And I think they have a higher upside and a similar floor as well. So Josh Jacobs last year, running back 5 overall, but running back 7 on average. He did that with 15 rushing touchdowns, 16 total touchdowns. That is very, very hard to repeat. And, Jordan Love wasn't throwing a bunch of touchdowns last year. That could easily flip back to, just 2 years ago, the Packers were never scoring rushing touchdowns and only passing touchdowns, right? So we don't know how that will flip. And he really, really, really depends on those touchdowns because he only had 4 games last season with over 30 receiving yards. He didn't even finish inside the top 10 at the running back position until week 8. And then he did have a really, really nice stretch of games when he was scoring an absurd amount of touchdowns. Like week 8, he had 2, and week 12, he had 3, and week 14, he got into the end zone 3 times. Like he did go through a crazy nice streak of great, touchdown production. I don't want to have to lean on that. And the guy I'm taking top 10 overall at his position or top 8, right? Like I just think the other players where there's, I talked about how much I love Bucky Irving. I think Bucky Irving has more upside than Josh Jacobs, and he's going later. And Kyron Williams, I would rather have, and Jonathan Taylor and Chase Brown, even James Cook. Like Josh Jacobs would have to drop pretty significantly for me to be happy about drafting him. I just am not excited about his upside. And when I'm taking a guy this early, I need them to still have. Like you could say, well, he's only going at running back 8 cost. He just has to be the running back 8. No, if I'm taking the guy at running back 8, I want him to have top 3 upside. I know Josh Jacobs has finished before with a different team. I just don't see him having that upside with the Packers this year.
Yeah, and this backfield has some options. Keep in mind, A.J. Dillon went down pretty quickly. Then you didn't have Marshawn Lloyd, and now you look at this backfield. I mean, Emmanuel Wilson was good in spurts. We'll see if Lloyd can become a bigger factor off the bench here and take some pressure off the workload of Josh Jacobs. So there was necessity. They had to keep him in all the way through the red zone opportunities. Again, you're going to have that touchdown regression. It's only natural with this team and this player. And the volume. We've seen it in the past where he got a huge volume from the Raiders. It was a battle of attrition the next year trying to stay on the field with injuries and all that because he's more of a power back type and he is versatile and can catch passes, but he has had value related to that when he was the scrimmage leader in the NFL. But he needs to kind of manufacture those a little bit here in Green Bay. So it's not the same as he was in the Raiders where they had to dump it off and let him rack up catches that may not be his exact role, what they're trying to do in Green Bay with him. But yeah, Jacobs has that history of, okay, he got a huge workload, then the fade happened right in with the Raiders. So that definitely could happen again. He's carried and caught the ball a ton over the course of his career. So there's some mileage starting to add up, but even for a back that's on a little bit of the younger side, not quite all the way old. But when you look at Jacobs, again, there's just so much out there that's better. And you circled the 2 that we're talking about, really, Chase Brown and Bucky Irving. I mean, of course you'd rather have those 2. You can look even a little few picks later and get Amari and Hampton. So when you're saying that, okay, you have Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson in some order coming off the board, right? Then you have Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Devin Achane, and then really your choice between Jonathan Taylor and some of those other backs. And you're telling me the next guy on the board is Josh Jacobs? It's a little hard to believe. So again, don't just buy into scoring from last year. It's not going to happen to that pace.
Yeah, it's just in that tier. No, thank you. He's at the bottom or even, enters that next tier for me. So we'll get to 2 more of our least favorite running backs to draft. And we disagree on these next 2 guys because I disagree on yours. And I know you disagree on mine because he was one of your ride or die running backs. So we'll get to that right after a quick break. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, like always, Vinnie and I are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and the updates they're rolling out this month are wild in the best way. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where The lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. But if you're just into the classics or more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. All right, Vinny, I think you're crazy for this one, but who is your never will I ever second running back?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to go a little bit crazy, but this guy, I mean, I feel like this is just a groupthink pick, but I do believe in it that he's due for regression. And I'm sad for this because I do have him on a team and I'd like him to be a little bit more effective behind Jahmyr Gibbs for a little while longer. But it's David Montgomery, like RB21. I know his cost has already been adjusted down, but I just think he could really disappoint this year. Like, I see the change in that offense being significant for his usage, right? Ben Johnson kind of could push the buttons, know exactly how to use Montgomery and Gibbs. Well, no offense to John Morton, I don't know if he's going to be as creative and do all the things, right? He wants to be a pass aggressive type coordinator and try to push the ball downfield to Jameson Williams, really pass more in general, right? I think that's kind of the mentality. So this has been a very run heavy Detroit offense here of late, and they've been able to get away with it because they win a lot of games. This year, I think they'll be in a lot more competitive games. Their schedule's tougher and all that, so they're not going to be able to just kind of have Montgomery come in the second half, play closer a little bit, and just be in complete control with him scoring touchdowns. I think you'll see more of Jahmyr Gibbs all over the field, this passing game role increasing. Then his running game, we know he's just got that explosive gear that Montgomery doesn't have and can also score a lot, as evidenced by last year. So, again, Montgomery, look, we've been trying to keep it together here. He's got the high scoring rate. That's hard to duplicate for a third consecutive season of double-digit scoring. And if he didn't have that double-digit scoring, Michelle, he would be not nearly what he was. He would be down below what we're looking at as the RB2. So I just can't do David Montgomery. Again, carries very little upside for me, and there's only one way to go with the scoring.
Yeah, I have to disagree pretty hard here. So I'm going to give my side of the argument here. So Montgomery last year, before he got injured in week 15, he was the running back 11 in average scoring from weeks 1 through 14. He, like you brought up, he scores a lot of touchdowns, right? At least 12 touchdowns in each of the last 2 years. A top 15 fantasy running back in back-to-back seasons too, right? And that's Jahmyr Gibbs is still taking a lot of his work. He's still taking a lot of goal line carries too. But I actually think Montgomery is a safe bet to continue scoring a lot of touchdowns because of how much work he gets around the goal line. It's not like these are random touchdowns he's getting or breaking off a lot of long runs and you're counting on those. He leads the NFL in carries inside the opponent's 5-yard line over the last 2 seasons. Even though he's missed 6 games over that span, he still leads the NFL in goal line carries. He's finished as a top 20 fantasy running back in 10 of the 14 games played last year. Again, he's running back, 23, 24. So that's perfect for me. And he's finished as a top 30 running back last year in 13 games. In all 13 games he played last season from weeks 1 through 14. So I think his floor is so incredibly safe. Well, you can see his upside in any given week. And I don't expect this offense to just fall off without Ben Johnson. I think they're going to score plenty. And I think the defense should be better with all the injuries they suffered last year. If those guys can stay healthy, then defense should be better, which allows for more runs and more of what Montgomery does with running out the clock. So I really like David Montgomery as an RB2 this year.
I'm just not going to push my luck too much with the David Montgomery. Like, I've had 2 very productive seasons from him, and look, he's not the lead back in this offense, and he has been productive so far. But again, the Johnson influence, we'll have to see. I don't know exactly how Morton is going to split the work, and I think, again, if he's less creative, they would say I'm just going to hand the ball to Gibbs a little bit more. I think there's situations where you could see both of these guys out in the field. I don't know if that really helps Montgomery. So you think you could see more of that, right? Where you rotate that way, where you have the 2 backs on the field versus give them different alternating series, and then you get to a point where you're in the red zone and you turn it over to Montgomery. I don't know if we'll see that as much, right? So you'll have situations where Montgomery might be on the field and Gibbs is on the field. If they're going to look for the finishing play, they're going to look for Gibbs in that situation as well. So again, I just don't see when somebody is scoring at this high a rate, I'm just very afraid that it's going to drop off, and that's where we're at. But again, it'll be my turn to disagree once you reveal your pick.
Yeah, so my second one, it was actually your ride or die running back, and it's Broncos rookie running back RJ Harvey. Right now, Fantasy Pros has him going on average as a running back 22 in ADP across all the sites, all the main sites for drafting. That's too high for me for someone that's projected to be more of like, A, he's either going to split the backfield with J.K. Dobbins or be used as like a change of pace back. While also they have other running backs there too, like McLaughlin, that can be a change of pace pass catching back too. So yeah, I expect Harvey to be a part of this offense. I just think that Sean Payton's going to keep using a 3-headed monster, or at least a split backfield. And J.K. Dobbins getting signed there, I think, just really destroyed his value. Now, if Dobbins goes down like he normally does, then Harvey should step up and have some really good games there. But Dobbins is going to have a significant role in this Broncos offense, probably be the starter. I think Sean Payton will trust him more as that veteran. And we know Dobbins is a really, really good running back as long as he's out on the field. He's highly efficient. He can be trusted. And yeah, Harvey should still get the third down work because Dobbins isn't that kind of guy. But I just don't think that kind of role is not worth the 5th round pick that he's going at. And also just us expecting that someone has to be good in this backfield for fantasy. I mean, last year we're like, someone has to be good, right? Javonte Williams had 70 targets last year, which is crazy. He had 70 targets, second on the team. He had 139 carries, led the team with McLaughlin second with 113. But I mean, no one in this backfield scored more than 7.7 fantasy points per game. And that was Javonte Williams. Like, he was still unusable despite seeing 70 targets in this offense. And I don't really see Harvey getting much more than 140 carries like Williams did. So he's going to have to be way more efficient. He's going to have to score way more touchdowns. And I just think Dobbins is going to be that goal line back over Harvey as well. So everything is just way too pricey for me, especially when you can get his counterpart, J.K. Dobbins, 102nd overall, 50 picks later. I'm just going to wait for him, because Harvey's going around David Montgomery, who I like more, and James Conner, who I like more, and Travion Henderson, who I am starting to warm up on, that he could really take over that backfield. But also I love Tony Pollard, right? He was a ride or die guy. He's going after RJ Harvey a little bit. So Harvey right at this moment is off my board, but I do hope I'm wrong, because if Harvey hits it, it'll be fun to have another rookie running back do great.
Yeah, I just look at his skill set, and it's immense. I mean, he can do a little bit of everything on the field. I just like his production from college. I also like the fact that they've given him opportunities to run the ball into the end zone so far in training camp and the preseason. They're excited about what he can do on the outside. So they like what he can do as a power back if needed, but also get an open field and make things happen here. Look, this backfield is screaming for someone to take over. And J.K. Dobbins, again, I'm not worried about him. Again, he's not going to give anything in the passing game. There's a very strong likelihood he gets hurt at some point. I mean, Dobbins is always hurt and misses games. Like, I mean, he's had seasons wiped out by knee injuries, but then last year he was missing some key time as well, which opened the door. So, again, RJ Harvey, I think they handpicked this guy. Keep in mind here, Javonte Williams, they tried to make work, didn't quite happen. This is a good grading out run blocking line. We know that from last year. So I think he'll be effective running the ball. They want to take pressure off Bo Nix. I wouldn't say they're going to throw the ball around the park. I mean, I was kind of surprised that they moved on from Devon Bailey after being good last year. Like, they just don't have a lot of weapons there in the passing game to say that they're just going to light it up with Bo Nix. They're going to have to run it, stay balanced, throw to the back quite a bit. So Harvey will take advantage of all those opportunities. And I simply trust Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi and what they want to do with his role here. So I'm okay with RJ Harvey plenty, right? I'm obviously riding or die with him. I just see on this team that knows what to do with the running back and has the talent at the position now that they were missing last year, overall potential. I love RJ Harvey for that reason. Again, I don't think he is totally without bust potential. I mean, all these guys have some bust potential, but I'm leaning a lot more on the boom than you are, obviously.
Yeah, obviously I'm scared of the risk and you are willing to take that risk. So it's okay. We're on different sides with that one. Agree to disagree. We're going to move on to our Never Will I Ever tight end to close today's show. But let's hear from one of our sponsors before we get into that.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything: cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help you. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference for you. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. Really, I have benefited a lot from therapy. I have one that I see regularly. Again, it's extra help for me to be the roadmap for what makes me happy in life. They get me back there if I'm a little off track and get a little lost. They're there to help me back on my way. BetterHelp can do that because they have more than 30,000 therapists, the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people. It's easy to fit into your schedule. Just a click to connect, and you can even switch therapists at any time if you need to. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners here to Locked On Fantasy Football get 10% off their first month. That's only at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp, help, betterhelp.com/lockedon to take advantage of that offer. 10% off your first month at BetterHelp. All right, Michelle, time to close the show. And we are going to get to our tight ends now that we have on our Never Will I Ever list or avoid list or do not draft, bust, whatever you want to call it. Who's one tight end? And I think we've talked about him quite a bit before, but who's the tight end you're going with that you're not touching in your redraft leagues this season?
Yeah, apparently I'm attacking Packers today because it's another Packer. But Tucker Kraft going as tight end 11. Nope. Tight end 12 last year in average scoring, and that was with scoring 7 receiving touchdowns and being in a situation where that team needed pass catchers. And with Luke Musgrave out, hurt for most of the season, that also gave Kraft more opportunity to be on the field and get those tight end targets too. But like when you're looking at this upside, I mean, he only had one big game last season, so the upside is just not super there in any given week. He was a top 12 tight end in just 4 weeks last season, and he's going top 12 now for some reason. And tight end 11, he had 8 weeks where he was a tight end 20 or worse, so just completely destroyed you and was pointless. He only had 6 games last season with at least 10 fantasy points, and only 3 with more than 11 fantasy points. But Kyler Pitts had 5 games with 10 plus fantasy points. Zach Ertz had 8, so 2 more games than Tucker Kraft did. And then just to keep going here with like the what he was doing, only 3 games with 12 fantasy points. That's the same as Kyle Pitts, same as Kate Otten, same as Will Dissly, same as Mike Gesicki. And to compare to like these top guys that you're going to be going against, right? If you're going against the George Kittle manager, George Kittle had 11 games last year with more than 12 fantasy points, and Tucker Kraft had 3. Now they're not going anywhere in draft costs, but I'm just saying like Tucker Kraft is not helping you win your games. The average, he was so touchdown dependent last year. Those were the only games that he did well. He averaged just 4.9 points per game in half PPR in games without a touchdown. That was 11 games. And again, like I just think Luke Musgrave being back will eat into his snaps a little bit and his targets. They added Matthew Golden in the first round. And I know a lot of the wide receivers right now are dealing with injuries, but most of these guys should be back to start the year pretty soon into that. So I just don't see the upside with Tucker Kraft whatsoever. And I don't even think he has a safe floor. So this tight end 11 cost, I don't understand, especially when Tyler Warren's going right next to him, choosing Tyler Warren all day, every day. There's only one of these guys that has a ceiling to be a top 3 guy, and it certainly isn't Tucker Kraft. And then even after that, like Colston Loveland would rather take the shot on him. But if I'm going to go with a guy with a super low upside, and maybe you think safe floor, but like I said, Kraft didn't even have that last year. I'm going with Jake Ferguson or Dallas Goedert, who are going 20, 30 picks after him, or even a Hunter Henry or a Zach Ertz or I'm going to just keep waiting and go for a guy with more upside, like a Bretton Strange or Mason Taylor, who are going a good 80 picks after Tucker Kraft. Just say no to Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft because last year we have our league that we play in and we have keepers and it's a tight end premium. And Tucker Kraft had been my second tight end, but I dumped him. And look, and there was a little bit of question over that, but now I'm over it because I was able to get Tyler Warren. So I'm going to upgrade and move on. And I'm not going to think twice about Tucker Kraft in the rearview mirror. Like, he's there, but there's Luke Musgrave. There's whatever. That's the Packers offense spreading around, maybe resetting the priorities and orders of targets here in Green Bay. So, yeah, there's just not a lot there that I like at Tucker Kraft. Now, this one hurts me because he's been huge for me in the past, and he's been huge for a lot of fantasy players. Mark Andrews. I mean, this is a tough one to draft here and justify because there's a lot of things going on here, right? You have the four, we said that's like the four special guys near the top, right? Who are basically Brock Bowers, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta in some order, right? That's it. Then we go into kind of a tier by himself as TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson's value a little bit higher now that you have the Jordan Addison suspension, and they're going to have to put the targets on him, right? Then number 6 and 7, the interesting names that used to be 1 and 2, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. Like, I'm not totally out on Kelce, right? I would take him. And I think there's going to be some people that make him drop, right? There's going to be so many people that, he's done, he's washed, that's it. And they're going to drop him a little bit and he could turn to value. But I feel like everyone's going to line up and maybe take Mark Andrews a little bit too high this season. And looking right behind him, you mentioned a lot of those guys, the Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, that type of range that comes after. But there's been some recent developments that make you like some of these other guys right behind him a little bit more. You have David Njoku. The Joe Flacco news is big for David Njoku. So that makes you feel better immediately about Njoku over Mark Andrews, where you still have to split with those receivers and Isaiah Likely, including our wide receiver guy that we picked, Zay Flowers. So that's a lot, right there. So then you look at Evan Ingram. Look, it's not juicy. He's not going to score a lot, but he could see a high volume in the Broncos offense. They don't have a lot after Cortland Sutton that they could rely upon in the passing game. They're kind of sorting out those guys, Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin and all those guys, right? So you could see that happen there in Denver to where Evan Ingram's a pure volume-based receiver, right? So you have those two guys behind. Then you get into those sleeper guys, the Warren type. So then what is the upside of using that middle pick? Because this is the value, the depth value of running back, wide receiver. Maybe this is when you pull the trigger at quarterback. As if you wait a little bit, where you might be drafting Mark Andrews. So again, he's just in that muddled middle that I don't want too much. For the record, I'm not too into Njoku. I don't think he's just going to copy what he did 2 years ago. Like I mean, I don't see that necessarily happening. And Ingram doesn't excite me that much. I'll just say that. So in general, I want to avoid this run between Andrews and Kraft for the most part. Look for an upside tight end, many that you mentioned later, and one of those guys through Laporta early. And that's exactly how I'm going to play this position this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like David Njoku quite a bit, but with Mark Andrews, now, if Isaiah Likely does have to miss a significant amount of time, like I do think as long as Likely's out, Andrews is going to, because so much of his snaps and targets were, kind of, they went way down last year, and all of his production was coming from touchdowns. He had 11 touchdowns last year. So as long as Likely is out, Andrews should be good. But as soon as Likely's back, like it's going to be touchdown dependent again. And a pick in that area when you're just so touchdown dependent and you're not getting as many targets, not even close as what you used to get, then yeah, it's going to be hard to trust him at that cost. That will be it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to us in audio form, give us that like, subscribe, 5-star review, all that good stuff to keep us, growing and helping, being here all 5 days of the weekday and helping you win your fantasy football leagues. We hope you have the best weekend. We will talk to you on Monday. Bye, y'all.